Hi everyone, we're here again for an Armstrong program entitled My Dog and Me. I don't know whether you watched the first section. This is going to be part two. Part one, Robin and I talked an awful lot about getting a puppy and things such as that. In part two, we're going to take you into stage two of once you have the puppy, some other adjustments that need to be made. Before we do that, in case you missed part one, let's talk about Robin. Robin, what's the name of your training organization and where do you have classes?
The name of the school is Red Ball Dog Academy, and we teach right here at Station 2 in Conneaut Lake on Route 18. Mondays maybe are going to be added to our schedule, but traditionally we've been here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
How do I find you?
Well, from you I might hide, but if anybody else wants to find me, I have a website. The Bark Park is a good reference for us. You can Google me, I come up there. Yeah, I'm easy to find. Ask anybody, they know where I'm at. I don't do well at hiding.
I know. The thing we ought to talk about, and we will talk about it briefly here, is the need for training more than anything else. And when someone says to me, they come in with a puppy and I say, are you in training class? I'm always asking, do you take a training class? And if they say they live in Guy's Mills or something like that, and I always say to them, well, you know what, it may be a little far for you to go to Conneaut Lake, but there's other trainers around.
Yes.
And you need to go in the phone book, you need to call the veterinarians, you need to look it up, you need to get that dog in a training class. It doesn't matter, it matters a little bit because you might not like the technique that they're using, but it's worth it to check around and get your dog in a training class. Probably the most important thing you can do. We do so much work with the therapy dogs.
Yes.
And what's the usual comment that's made us, how do I train my dog to be a therapy dog, and what's usually our comment to them?
If you take a basic obedience class, your dog usually has everything it needs to do to be a therapy dog.
Right. There's no such thing as training to be a therapy dog, actually. We always laugh about that, and we could talk about that for days. That's one of our big gripes. But the training classes are so very important. Hey, when do they start them?
We're starting back up the first week in September.
And how old should the puppy be?
I accept puppies into my class at 8 weeks old.
What about 7 weeks of age?
No.
That was a trick question. Why not 7 weeks?
Because you should not have a puppy at 7 weeks of age.
Okay.
Because it is illegal in the state of PA to sell a puppy before they are 8 weeks of age.
What shots do they need to come to your class?
Because I allow puppies in at 8 weeks, they will come with their first set.
Which is generally
shots. What? Distemper, parvo, the whole DHPPL.
Right, that whole thing. Okay.
That whole thing. They will have their first shot. As puppy class progresses, so will their shot schedule with their vet, and then we ask people to keep us updated. We do run into some veterinarians that will tell their clients not to bring their puppies to class until they have finished their series of shots. As a trainer and as a veterinarian, sometimes we butt heads on that because the best time to socialize your puppy, there's a developmental window in the development of your puppy and their little brains for socialization, and that happens between 8 and 14 weeks. Some literature says 8 to 12 weeks, some says 8 to 14. So if you wait until you have all your puppy shots, your puppies are 12 weeks old.
And Red Ball Dog Academy, I call you and my dog's going to be 8, let's see, the next session starts beginning of September. And it's there's 6 weeks in length.
There's 6 weeks in length, and it's every week, once a week you come.
Okay, and if I have trouble during that period of time when I'm in your class, I can always call you as I can put you on speed dial?
You can put me on speed dial.
Okay, now my puppy's going to be 8 weeks of age, and I just got the puppy, it's the 3rd week in September. What can I do until I get into your class? Do you do any private lessons or anything?
I do private lessons. And usually what I tell people that run into that is if you get your puppy and you want to get started on the right foot and it's, give me a call, I can come do a private lesson, I can get you started so that you have something to work on. And then when you come to class, you are not so much working to try to get your puppy to do the exercise like the other people in class are working. You're working to get your puppy to do the exercise within the distraction of the class. So you're a little bit ahead of the other people in the class who are not only battling the exercise, but they're battling the distraction at the same time.
Oh, I bet. How many times do you hear, honest to God, my dog is so, I worked on that and my dog is perfect doing this at home.
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes, because you don't have the distraction at home. And do you know what my comment to my students is?
I can't imagine.
It's thank goodness. That means we're doing our job because they don't live in this building. It means that they're getting better and they're doing what they're supposed to at home. Distraction is relative to a dog. A distraction to my dog is not always a distraction to your dog. And yes, we take our dogs out and we battle distraction when we take our dogs out, no matter where we are. But we want them to listen at home because that's where they are most of the time, is we want them to listen at home.
I once asked you, or I remember I heard someone ask you when we were visiting with the therapy dogs, and they said, when can I stop training my dog? And I think your comment was,
I don't know, I don't stop.
You don't stop, it's constant,
I don't stop.
isn't it?
It's constant. There's always something to teach them, something to show them, something to reinforce. The one that is quiet right now decided the other day that down is no longer in her vocabulary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't do that anymore. I've never heard that word. She knew how to do it at 7 weeks old. So did the whole litter. But she decided just recently that, no, don't do that no more.
What's your feeling on using treats whenever you're training?
Treats are important. Treats are important. Treats are two things. Number one, their communication. As much as we want our dogs, or we treat our dogs like people, you know, we come home from work, we've had a really bad day, and our puppies come over and they're with us, and we look at our puppies and we look them in the eyes and we go, oh, you wouldn't believe the day I had. And they look back at us with those beautiful brown eyes or dark eyes, and they're looking at us and they're doing this. And we're telling them about our really bad day. They hear Charlie Brown's teacher saying, wah, wah, wah. They're listening for those cues that they know. So as much as we think they understand everything that we say, they don't. They're dogs, we're people. That cookie, that treat, and when I say cookie, I don't mean Oreos. When I say cookie, that's just my language for a treat for a dog. That cookie tells them that they're doing it right. So in the beginning, when you're training a puppy or a dog that has never been trained before, your treats, your cookies, are your information to that dog. So if you're asking for something, as soon as they do it right and you deliver that, your dog gets the information. Oh, that's what they want. That's what that want want means.
What about people that give treats constantly and the dog ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
Bigger and bigger. Well, there is a warning that goes with training. You will use a lot of treats in the beginning. And this is what I tell people. Cheerios work well, they're low cal, and most dogs will work for Cheerios. Here's the other really good thing about Cheerios. If you leave them in your pockets, Sue leaves cookies in her pockets all the time because she never gives them to her dogs. She just pretends to give them to her dogs. But if you leave Cheerios in your pockets, they go through the washing machine and they dissolve. When you leave real treats in your pockets, they don't dissolve in the washing machine and they make a mess inside the pocket. But if you're training and you're using a lot of treats, you either need to do one of two things. You either need to pull back some of that food and use that to train with, although some dogs will not work for their kibble. Some dogs will not work for their food. But you either need to do that, like pull a quarter of a cup out and make them work for that, or you need to cut back on their food, because a fat dog and a fat puppy is an unhealthy puppy. You want to keep them in a good weight range, because it is much easier to put weight on your dogs, most dogs. There are a few dogs that it's really hard to keep weight on, but most dogs, it's easier to put weight on them than it is to take it off. And it's not good for their joints, and especially in a growing puppy. An overweight puppy that's growing really fast, you don't want that extra weight on there. But the other thing about treats, and I tell my I tell my clients this is they're like training wheels on a bicycle. If you take them away too soon, they're going to crash. If you take those treats away too soon and the dog has not figured out the exercise, they're not going to get it, because that is your communication.
A lot of people do it when they're teaching their dogs to come, especially from outdoors and coming in when you put them out at night. And they come in the door, and in fact, I was just talking to someone who just got a puppy, and she said, and Max already knows that as soon as Max comes in, he goes over and sits by the cabinet and gets a treat.
Ella, my older golden, is 6.5 now. Mm-hmm. My dogs get a cookie every time they come in the house.
Mine do too.
They get a cookie every time they come in the house. I live in the country. I have a fenced-in yard, which is nice, except for it keeps wildlife out to a minimum. Not always, but it doesn't keep that skunk from coming towards the fence. So when I see that and I call them and they want to play with that black and white kitty, but I say, who wants a cookie? And they turn around and run, that's score for me. So recall coming to you always has to be fun, and it has to be worth their while. And if there's something out there that looks more fun to them, I have to be better than that. And if that's a cookie, then that's a cookie. Coming to me is always a reward.
I have one that goes outside to smell the air because he knows when he comes in, he's going to get a biscuit.
Yes.
And he has me very well trained.
Well, they do. There's this funny cartoon that I read a long time ago, and it's very true. And it's an old sheepdog and a puppy sitting on a hillside, and the old dog says to the puppy, "I hear you're going to school." And the puppy says, "Yup." And the old dog says, "You get lots of cookies at school." And the puppy says, "Yup." And the old dog says, "If you pretend you don't know what you're doing, you get a whole lot more." And the puppy goes, "I know."
That works real well.
It does. It does.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about getting the puppy home and stuff like that. Let's talk about, we've talked about the dishes in our first program. We talked about the crates, and we have a crate sitting over there. We talked about the crates, so they can check that out if they want to hear about that. We talked about the leashes. We talked about that stuff. What are how do I puppy-proof my house and my yard? What are some of my options there? What about in the house?
Okay, in the house, just like a toddler.
Okay.
Okay, so look eye level. Look the level of your dog on 2 feet, because they jump and they can walk on 2 feet, and you want to watch. What is it that they can chew and get into? Cords. Electrical cords are a draw.
Terrible.
So watch for those, especially if they're plugged in. That's a huge danger. Little things that they can get in their mouth and swallow. So you have to make sure that that kind of stuff is picked up.
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. Yeah,
Grab the roll and keep on run.
Yes, this one has a huge paper
That's
fetish.
a good one.
Baskets. Yeah, it's best just to keep the bathroom door shut.
Right.
There is. So here's the thing about a puppy. Yes, we have a crate, and the crate is for when you cannot have your eyes on your puppy. So if you have a chore to do in the house that is going to take your concentration off of your puppy, not that you have to stare at your puppy every second, but if the chore that you're going to do in your house is going to keep you distracted so that you forget you have a puppy in your house, it's safer to put your puppy in the crate. Okay? If you're going to walk to get your mail, put your puppy in the crate if you don't take your puppy with you. Okay? Sometimes, and you will know your puppy by then, if you need to go to the bathroom, put your puppy in a crate.
Or take the puppy with you.
Or take the puppy with you. If you cannot have your eyes on your puppy, put your puppy in the crate.
Could that be why I've lost 4 pairs of glasses?
Yes.
I have an issue. My collie just has destroyed glasses. I always say he has his own credit card of Pearl Vision.
Yeah.
Because we've been in there so many times.
Yes,
and I think I've got it all picked up, and before I leave, I pick everything up. And almost inevitably, there's something I've forgotten.
Yes, and you do have to scan.
Like they have radar, they can find it.
And there isn't any. Cicely will carry things that scissors. Runs with scissors. She needs that T-shirt. She will carry scissors. My staple gun. wire coat hangers.
Right.
There's nothing that she will not put in her mouth. If my husband leaves the remote to the TV on the couch, she'll have it. If it's on the end table, she won't touch it.
Amazing. All right, so what about outside? What are some things I can do to protect my dog outside?
My number one thing, you need a fence.
I agree. You know, I was just talking to somebody that is a breeder, and she sometimes gets rid of her older dogs. It may be at age 3 or 4 because she's done breeding them and she wants them to have a good home. She will not sell her dog unless not an invisible fence.
They have to have a physical fence.
It has to be a physical fence. She will not sell that dog.
Yes.
Best thing you can ever, best investment in the world.
Yes.
Why not an invisible fence? See if you feel the same way I do about them.
I am not a fan. I personally would not use an invisible fence, but I know people who do, and they work well for them. They work well for them. This is my personal view on them. Number one, I don't wear collars on my dogs.
Okay.
Unless we go somewhere. Okay. At home, my dogs do not have collars on. When they're playing, they can get their mouths caught in collars. When they're running through the house, they can get their collar caught on something. So I do not have a collar on my dog.
And you don't put a collar on a dog when they put them in the crate?
In a crate, ever.
Ever, okay. That's,
Ever.
we need
Naked in the crate. Naked in the crate.
Okay.
A wire crate, if you look at a wire crate, you're going to say, yes, my dog could get their collar caught on a wire crate. But they can even get them caught in one of those plastic crates.
Okay.
Every year, dogs hang themselves. And what happens is they get their collar caught and then they panic and they twist it, and they hang themselves. We had a really sad story just 2 years ago of someone who had a dog, and the husband went to work, and then the wife came home 5 minutes later, was their routine. So the dog wasn't in the crate very long at all. And one of them was leaving for work and got partway out down the road and went, oh, I forgot to take the collar off. It's okay because they'll be home in 5 minutes. 5 minutes was too late.
Okay, so invisible fence. We just said about
invisible
that.
Fence. This is my thing about invisible fence. This is my personal reason that I do not have an invisible fence. Number one, I like to look out my window and know that my fence is secure.
Okay.
If my fence has a break in it, I will know immediately by looking. It will show me that it has a hole in it. Mm-hmm. I've known people with invisible fences that, quite simply, a truck backed in their yard to turn around and it backed over where the fence was buried and it broke it.
Wow.
And they didn't know it until their dog was not in their fence. Mm-hmm. So number one, my dogs would have to wear collars, and I don't like them. Number two, you can't tell if it's broken. Mm-hmm. Number three, the batteries can go dead in them. Number four, it doesn't discourage wildlife from other dogs from coming in my yard.
That's what I don't
Where
want.
my physical fence is a bigger barrier to that. It's not full. I mean, I've still had groundhog skin in my yard. I still had
poor things.
Yeah, they don't get back out.
They don't live long in my yard
They don't get back out. But it's a better deterrent than flat open. The other thing is, if they do break through and get out, the only way they can get back in is to receive another correction if you're not right
Some dogs will go through them too.
Yes.
Certain breeds.
If the distraction on the outside is big enough, but a lot of people use them and they have great success with them. It's just not for me.
I don't have the money for an invisible fence. I don't have time to walk my dog. I know what you're going to say. And I don't have a chain link. You're probably going to tell me don't get the dog. But if I do get the dog, can I chain my dog outside?
There's a new law.
There is? When did that go into effect?
There's a new law. It's called the Libra law, and it goes into, I think, I'm not positive, it's either the 16th of this month or the 24th of this month that it goes into effect. It's called the Libra law, Libre, and it's named after a little dog that was tied outside in horrible conditions. But this law says that dogs cannot be tethered outside longer than 9 hours in a 24-hour period. They can only be out there for 30 minutes if the temperature is above 90 or below 30, I think. The tether has to be on a swivel, and of course they need to have shelter and water. and the tether itself has to be 3 times the length of the dog. So that is a new law that is going to into effect in August of this.
Is that Pennsylvania or is that
It's Pennsylvania?
Probably Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the governor just signed it.
Pennsylvania's getting just a little bit better. They have a long, long way to go until they make enough corrections for dog care, but that's certainly a good one.
Yeah.
Anything else about the fences? So we've got the cyclone fence, we've got the invisible fence, we've got tether or tying the dog out. Anything else?
Perimeter training, people do that.
Okay, I want to ask you about something else too.
I'm not a fan of that either. There are some dogs that can do it, but most not. When I was assisting at a different training school, a person came in with their dog, puppy. That's a really nice puppy. Is this your first dog? No, I had a dog. Oh, did it die? Yeah. Well, what happened to it? It got hit by a car. Oh, I'm really sorry. Did you get a fence? Nope, I don't live close to the road. And now they have another puppy.
Brilliant people.
6 months in, he didn't come back.
What
The
about
dog got hit by a
what
car.
about shock collars?
Shock collars have their purpose. Again, we talked about breed in the last segment, and your dog is who your dog is. They are who they were bred to be, and they have their purpose. And I tell my students this: I have no experience on shock collars. I own golden retrievers. They don't need them. I've never used one. So I'm not the person to ask about them. On strong hunting breeds, sometimes it's their only option on recall and things like that, because they are so focused on that other thing. But I'm not the person to ask on that because I don't have the personal experience.
Okay, so we've talked about the leashes, the collars, the indoors, the outdoor protection, the fences. My dog has had its first set of shots. It's had a second set of shots. I want to find a veterinarian. Who do I go to? How do I find a vet?
Well, this is what I recommend. First off, I would hope that you've done that research before you brought your puppy home.
I forgot.
Okay. Before you even bring your puppy home, you really should research. There's a lot of good vets in this area.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of good vets in this area. And then there are some that aren't so good. And a lot of times the relationship with your vet isn't always their knowledge or their skills. Sometimes it's just personality conflicts. So you have to find a vet that you can work with, that you like, that you feel comfortable with. A lot of times I see these posts out on different sites. Who's the cheapest? Well, that would not be my first go-to.
Mine either.
There's no such thing in the world as a free puppy. There's no such thing as this being cheap. Dogs are not cheap.
I saw the statistics on that one time, what it takes per year to have a dog with all the vet appointments, anything that might go wrong, feeding them and all their accessories. It was an awful lot of money.
Yes, and the preventatives to keep them from getting sick. They're not cheap. They're an investment, and they are an investment that, if you're lucky, is 10 to 12 years. If you're lucky.
Yes.
If you're lucky. So this is a long time commitment. That's the other thing about the impulse of the cute little puppy in the box at the flea market that says free. This is 10 to 12 years of your life that you're committing to this puppy. What is your lifestyle going to be for 10 to 12 years? Can you fit a puppy into it? So do your research ahead of time. Find a vet that has the same thoughts that you have. What are you looking for? Even vaccination protocol. It has changed a lot over the last 10 to 15 years. There's a lot of research out there that says we're over vaccinating our dogs. What is your thoughts on that? Are you the person that's fine with getting vaccinations every year. Are you a person that would feel more comfortable doing it every 3 years after the initial vaccinations? Every 3 years. Are you a person that wants to do a titer on your dog?
What's a titer?
A titer is a blood test that will tell you whether your dog is still carrying the immunity, the vaccination, to that particular thing, like distemper.
So you can do that test to see whether or not the immunity is there. If the immunity is there, you could probably forego that test and maybe wait a year.
You would not have to vaccinate.
But I mean, I was going to just be facetious. That's not my decision to make. That's the veterinarian's decision to make by testing, instead of me saying, oh, my dog doesn't need that. My dog doesn't see any other dogs. I don't have to get all those shots. They do have to get all those shots.
Yeah.
You want to protect them.
You want to make sure that they're covered. You want to make sure that they're covered. But that doesn't mean that we always have to revaccinate. You can do it. But is your vet willing to do the titer? Some vets don't offer that. So if that's what you want, you need to make sure that you're with a vet that will work with that. Same thing on spay neuter. There's research out there that it used to be 6 months. At 6 months, we spayed or neutered our dogs. Now there's research out there that are saying, especially in the purebreds, that it is healthier in my breed, in Goldens. It is healthier that if you wait, because my breed, Golden Retrievers, are the #1 cancer dog now. She's number 5. Number 4 is still with me. The other 3 I have lost to cancer. All different kinds. Every one of them had a different kind. And the Golden Retriever Club of America has spent millions of dollars in research trying to figure out why our breed. So, and some of the research that has come out has said that it is healthier for the females to be a year old, or at least have gone through 1 heat cycle before you spay them. It is also healthier for the males to be at least a year old before you neuter them. They need those hormones to grow and to develop the way that they were designed to develop. So it's what you believe and what you want for your dog. Does your vet go with that protocol? So you need to research that ahead of time. Know what you want for your puppy. It's your puppy. Know what you want for it. Know that your vet will work with that.
Right, and have a vet that you can talk to.
Have a vet that's available to you.
Right.
What if something happens at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night? Where do you go? What do you do? You need to know that ahead
We
of
are
time.
very, very fortunate in this area because one of our local veterinarians at Conneaut Lake Vet now has offered 24-hour emergency service.
Yes.
That has never before been available. If you had an issue with your dog, off you went to Erie.
Yeah.
So now they offer that at Conneaut Lake, whether you are their client or not, you can get that 24-hour service.
Right.
And that's really huge to me. And
Right.
it bothered me prior to them doing that. They are my vet. Only because of convenience and some other issues. But I always said, well, wait a minute. If one of my guys gets sick in the middle of the night on a weekend, where am I going to have to go? Well, previously I had to go to a vet that was 10, 12, 15 miles away. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I want my vet or my vet practice to take care of my dog. Yeah. So I'm very fortunate because that's what the emergency service is. But it is nice to know now that we're going to have one that's close by.
And not have to travel for an
absolutely,
hour. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's going to be huge.
Right.
You got to be very proactive too.
Yes.
As an owner.
Yes.
I was at a conversation recently and they were saying this, and this about the vet. And I had an interesting comment made to me, and I think it was in one of our Armstrong programs, and it was with Dr. Consla. And he made the comment on testing for dogs and just, on general care. And he said, always make sure in advance you know what you're going to do when you get the results of the test. Because if you're not going to do something about it, don't spend all that money.
Right.
He's very, very, and a lot of the vets they're no longer, they just don't seem to be, not to be rude, not bleeding us dry anymore because we're so overly in love with our pets. We want to provide the best for them, and sometimes we spend an awful lot of money, and sometimes you have to say, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
That's not an option, or whatever. And remember, you know your dog better than anybody. Mm-hmm. And does well to keep notes at home on things that you see. And whenever you go to the vet, they ask you a question. You say, well, that actually happened 5 days ago, and this happened. We haven't eaten for 2 days. And because when you get in that office, start forgetting stuff. So it tends to be, it's important to be very, very proactive with your pet too.
Yeah. Yep. Very.
Okay,
very.
so we've got the veterinarian in place. Anything else about the veterinarians, about picking one?
No, I just think it's a personal choice. It has to be somebody that you feel comfortable with. Just like a doctor-patient relationship for your personal doctor, it's the same with your pet's doctor.
We're very fortunate in this area. I do an awful lot of programs with Armstrong, and we travel around to a lot of the veterinarians, and most of them have very, very good staff. Very nice staff when you go in, return your phone calls, do everything like that.
There's a lot of choices in this area. There's a lot of choices. There's got to be somebody that you can work with.
Right.
Yes, so
right. And is your other thing we can also talk about very quickly, is your vet willing to send you some other place? I want a vet that can do my testing at the office. If they draw blood from my pet, I want those answers as soon as possible. Sometimes they have to be sent out. But a lot of vets that sometimes might be a little less expensive send everything out or don't have the ability to do the testing right there, and I want that.
Right, and you need to know that up. You know, if my dog has an emergency, can you deal with it? Not, I just drove 25 minutes to get to you. I'm in a critical situation, and now you tell me you can't help me. So you need to know that ahead of time.
Okay, what about, we talked about dogs and characteristics. What about a groomer?
What about a groomer?
Groomers are tough to find.
Groomers are tough to find. And the other thing about groomers is they have waiting lists.
They sure do.
So if you
way in advance,
if you get a breed that needs groomed, you need to interview groomers ahead of time. Go visit their shop, call them up, find out what their practices are. Do they kennel the dogs in between? Are they a free roaming groomer?
Do they muzzle them all the time?
Do they muzzle them? Sometimes they have to muzzle
but some are muzzled constantly.
So, you know, find out what their practices are. Find out what their methods are. Find out how long in advance you have to make the appointment. Those types of things. There's some groomers have some very, very strict rules. Like if you take your dog in and they find a flea, they charge you a lot of money.
Absolutely.
So you need to find that out. But don't wait till you need the groomer to start looking for the groomer, because then you're in trouble, especially for things like nails. It's a pet peeve of mine, dogs' nails being long, because it's painful for a dog.
It is.
It is painful.
So
they need to be kept. So you
talk about the Dremel you have there.
Okay, so.
Well, let's talk about it. There's some things about the groomer. There's some things you as an owner can do yourself, and you should know. In fact, we're planning on doing a program on what can the pet owner do themselves as far as their grooming is concerned.
Right. Sue brought this because I jumped in my car and took off and forgot mine. I use a cordless Dremel that you can get at Walmart for like $20. This is a corded Dremel tool, and it has a sandpaper disc on it. I use this to trim my dog's nails. This is what I use. I like the Dremel better than clippers. My dogs like the Dremel better than clippers. They don't like to feel that pressure of the clip. They deal with this much, much better. The nice thing about this is when you use this to trim their nails, it makes them rounded and there's no sharp edges on them like you can sometimes get on a clip. So it's faster. I like it much, much easier. I think it's much, much easier. When you're working with this, I use this on my puppies, on my litter. I was amazed that those puppies were born with nails that were hooked over. I'm like, really, that wasn't nice to their mama being born that way, but they were born with nails that were hooked. And so every other day, I Dremeled nails on 8 puppies every other day, and desensitized them to getting their nails done, and she's the easiest of any dog that I've ever Dremeled nails on. But for a dog who's never had this done, you can desensitize them to this. You put them on the floor, get out your treats, and take this, let them smell it, touch their nail like this, give them a cookie. Touch their nail like this, give them a cookie. Turn it on, give them a cookie. Touch a nail, give them a cookie. Or if one of the easiest ways to do this is to get a an old wooden spoon that you don't care if you get it back, smear some peanut butter on it. If you have somebody that can help you, have them hold the spoon so the dog can lick the peanut butter off and just go ahead and do their nails. Just use this and trim them back.
I know something we forgot to discuss. What are some of the things that you should do when you get a puppy from day one as far as desensitizing them towards touch and things like that? I remember you do that in one of your classes, in puppy class.
We do a lot of socialization things. We give our students a paper to take home. We talked about that socialization window with the vaccinations, and sometimes the vets don't want puppies out in public until they've had their whole series of shots.
But what about as far as, I never forget Gutierrez Peters. She had the best line one time, and we were talking. She was doing the class where she says, "Put your finger and touch their ears, touch them here, look underneath their gums, look at that." And her comment was, "Always remember, you paid for that dog.
You should touch it.
That dog is yours. You can do it."
We do that when we teach face handling.
Face handling.
When we do that when we teach face handling.
The vets appreciate that.
Yes, the vets love face handling. But the thing about this is it's very important that you take your hands and go over your whole dog at least once a week. And
can we share that with
yes, we can.
Let's use Cicely.
Let's bring
Cicely
her out.
wants to come out.
She's had enough of being in there.
She said to me, "Sue, come up with something that I can come out."
Yes, now that she's quiet and not trying to
get her out here.
Come here. Come here. No, you can't just
You know, we were
run.
talking about putting your hands all over a dog, even as far as the issue now with ticks and that. Most people that should be touching their dogs constantly to see if there's anything going on or bites or mosquito bites or whatever. Okay, face handling, what is it?
Okay, so face handling is just quite simply, you put your finger through the collar, you take them by the scruff of the neck back here, so she has all of this, and you just let them rest their muzzle in the V of your hand. You don't want to hold their mouth shut. You just want her to rest it there. And you gently massage the back of their neck and let them rest their head there. So I have control of this head. But while I'm doing that, I can look in her ears. I don't see light from the other side, although sometimes I think I should, so she's good.
Is there a brain in there?
There must be, because either that or there's just a roadblock, because I don't see that. I can check her teeth. I can look there, I can open up, I can look in her mouth, I can check her eyes. I can handle this head because we've taught her face handling. Now, having said that, and this is going out on an Armstrong program, you want to be very careful doing this on a young puppy because this can turn into a mother dog shake thing. When puppies are in the litter and they misbehave, a mama dog will bite them on the scruff of the neck and give them a shake and growl at them. So puppies sometimes, little puppies will try to fight you the second you grab a hold of them here, and you really need somebody to show you how to do that really properly. So we're just demonstrating this. Please don't try this at home until you have someone with some experience really show you how to do this. So the other thing that you want to do is you want to take your hands and go all over your dog. Are you going to fall down on me? You want to play with their feet. Take your fingers and go in between their pads and their toes. Take your hands and go under their belly, all around them. Touch their tail, touch their feet. If they're a boy dog, touch their boy parts. If they're a girl dog, touch their girl parts. You want to be able to touch them everywhere. A couple reasons. Number one, yes, this is your dog and you should be able to put your hands anywhere. If they get injured or hurt and you need to check it out, you want to be able to touch them everywhere. The other thing about touching them everywhere is if your dog develops a lump or a bump and you've done this once a week, every week, and all of a sudden you're doing it one week and you go, whoa, what is that? That wasn't there last week. You've caught it quick, you've caught it early, and it might turn out to be a nothing, but it might turn out to be something very important. So you want to make sure that you can touch them everywhere. All right, along those lines, why I have her out here, sometimes there are things that we do that we don't do because we don't know that we should. And this, yeah, that, you are too big for that. That is not for you. This is one. This is something that we don't think about, that everybody should do. This is a basket muzzle, okay? this is the brand that I use. This is a basket muzzle. There is not a mean bone in this dog's body. She would not need to wear a muzzle to not bite me, okay? But she needs to know what it feels like to wear one. Because if your dog is ever seriously injured, you want to be able to put a muzzle on them first. Because if your dog is in pain, they might bite you. They don't mean to bite you, but they might bite you. If you think about it, when we get hurt, Stat Medevac comes in and they strap us to a board so that they don't hurt us when they move us. And they put us on a helicopter and they take us somewhere to be treated. We can't do that with our pets. When our pets get hurt, we have to pick them up, put them in our car, carry them into the vet's office, go to the waiting room, and then carry them back to an exam table, pick them up and put them on it. Every time we move them, we hurt them. So you want to get them at least comfortable with putting one on. So to do that, these basket muzzles, they can take treats through here, they can drink water through them. So what you do again is you hold some peanut butter here, or you give them cookies so that they get used to the feel of it on their face. And they don't fight you on putting it on.
My dog has no nose. I have one that's been thrown against the wall, my little Shih Tzu.
They make
muzzle
they make muzzles that
and they
will
also
fit them,
make
yeah.
the soft muzzles.
They do make the soft
you can
muzzles.
also,
They make different kinds of muzzles. This is a basket muzzle.
You like that one?
The reason I like this one is because you can give them treats through it, and it's not binding. It doesn't clamp their mouth shut. So she can pant.
Oh wow, that's actually pretty firm, isn't it?
Yes, she can pant, she can drink water. She doesn't have her mouth held shut. They tend to panic when you hold their mouth shut. And they come in all sizes. And again, she needs no muzzle. I just get them used to the feel of it, because if she ever needs one, she's already going to be stressed out, because it's going to be because she's hurt or she's injured.
What do these cost?
They run about $30.
Did they really?
Yes.
This is really firm.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I didn't realize that.
So my girls learn to tolerate one. Is it their favorite thing in the world? No, she closes her eyes. I don't know if you could see that or not, but she had her eyes closed when she had it on. I closed my eyes and pretend it's not on there. But I just started working her with it a couple weeks ago, and I make her wear it for like 5 minutes and I take it off, just so she understands what it is. If I ever do have to use it, she's had it on her before. For dogs who hate the vet, sometimes it's just, you want to come sit by me? Sometimes it's just the smell of the vet's office that can trigger them. For dogs who hate the vet and the vet feels threatened, and they say, you know, I've got to muzzle your dog. If your dog is used to wearing a muzzle and they have their own muzzle, take your own muzzle, put your own muzzle on the dog for the vet. You cannot, oh, you want this? This is yours. If you want it, you can have it. Off.
Does she like
you want this?
the deer antlers?
Yes.
I'm very fond of them.
Yes,
My dogs
she
love
does.
them.
She likes them. Here, you can have it down there.
Needless to say, they're, for what it's worth, they're extremely expensive. If you're getting a cheap one, you're not getting a good one.
Right. They're about $30.
Yeah. If you get one that's, I usually look like the 9-inch ones.
Yeah.
And you're usually looking $28, $30 for one. They are expensive.
But they do
are
hold
good.
up. They do hold up. So, yeah. So something that most people wouldn't think about is a muzzle for them. My dog is sweet and it's nice. It would never need a muzzle. And another thing to think about, if you're out and about and a dog gets hit by a car in front of you and you jump out to help that dog, you might want to take your sock off and tie it around the dog's nose, because that dog is in pain and hurt, and again, it would work like a muzzle.
Yeah, another good class, you're talking about that real quickly, and I think we did it at one time, might do it again, is the first aid for
it's
dogs.
a
So you
wonderful
know how
class
to do
to take, yes.
just use a cravat bandage and put a muzzle on and stuff like that. So one of the things I've always been impressed with are the socialization. You had a piece of paper, I remember, in your class. See, my mind's doing pretty well because that's pretty long ago that I had a puppy.
You actually came to class.
I did. I came
like
occasionally.
complete attendance.
I did. That's
Wow.
whenever I didn't. Now I don't always make it all the time. But what is on the socialization questions? What should they be able to do? Where should I take my dog to get him used to the world?
Let's debunk what people think socialization is first off. Okay. Most people think that if their puppy plays with another dog, it's been socialized.
You mean like another dog at home?
Yes.
Or their neighbor?
Right.
That's it?
Right. They think that is socialization. And that's part of it. Mm-hmm. That's very important. It's very important that they're exposed to other dogs, but that's not all of it. Just really simple. Socialize your dog means get your puppy out in the world. Expose them to people in wheelchairs, people on roller skates, people on crutches, people on motorcycles. Expose them to things of the world. Take them to as many dog-friendly places as you can. Mm-hmm. Because they are not afraid at that age. If they are, don't ever drag them up to it and tell them, it's okay, don't be afraid.
Oh yes, that's always
because
good.
You're telling the dog, don't be afraid. It's nothing to be afraid of. What the dog hears is, I'm scared to death, and you're telling me that that's how I should be. Mm-hmm. Don't force them on it. I'm afraid of certain things. If you forced me up on what I'm terrified of, I will hurt you.
Know your dog.
Know your dog, yes. If they're afraid of something, just walk away from it, approach it again at another time.
Since you and I do so much with therapy dogs, we often say that if there's certain signs that your dog's under stress, whether it be the wideness of the tongue or the panting or this, that, or the drool or extreme amount.
The pacing, the spinning.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Know it, and if you see it on your dog,
yawning,
then stop what you're doing.
Yes.
And leave because it just isn't going to work.
Right.
And sometimes whenever we're visiting, and the wheelchairs, their first time in can be really tough for a dog with the wheelchair, the walkers, or whatever. And I say, you know what? This is going to be for the next 4, 5, 6, 8 years. Take your time.
Well, hello.
They'll get it. Well, look who's here.
Yes, we're feeling neglected.
Oh,
I guess.
Life is tough.
Yes.
My favorite thing. Give me my water bottle here.
Watch her.
I have to watch where she's pointing it.
Oh
she
no,
wants to
she says
squirt
I
me
wasn't
with it.
doing nothing.
What's in here, Robin?
White vinegar and water.
And when do you use this?
Often.
I know you do, and so do I.
The secret to this bottle, first off, this is the best training tool in the whole world. It will not hurt your puppy, but the secret to it is make sure it's white vinegar. You can do it 50-50. At school, I use it 75-25. Don't talk to this woman. She doesn't know what water is. So it's vinegar and white vinegar and water, but the secret is how it's delivered. First off, your squirt bottle needs to be set to stream, not spray. The stream will get your dog's attention. The vinegar, they like the taste of it. So many people say, oh, it doesn't work, my dog licks it right up. Yes, they like the taste of it. It is the smell that's the deterrent. Mm-hmm. The stream gets their attention. The smell is the deterrent. They learn respect for this bottle really, really fast. You squirt them right in the face and you tell them. If they're jumping on you, you say, no, off, and you say it meaningfully, but then, no, you don't have to blink, I didn't mean you. Then you replace it with a positive behavior, because if you don't, they'll just default back to the negative. It works for jumping, it works for getting in the garbage, it works for chasing the cat, it works for overbiting. No bite, get a toy. It works for barking, hush. It works for so many things. And a lot of times you can put this down on the floor and the dog will make a wide berth around it, or it won't even go into the room. I pull this out when I bring a puppy back into the house, and my older dog will go like this and go, I wasn't doing anything. They just never forget.
Yeah.
They never forget.
It too. I have 4 dogs, and I have it, and as soon as we have one of our barking incidences
Yes.
or whatever, and all I do is just get it out and I just go like this. And they go, "Oh man, we're not messing with her
Right,
today.
yeah.
We're getting back because
Yes.
she's got the bottle."
It will break. It will
Yeah,
break up
great tool.
scuffles. It won't break up a fight. A fight is too intense, but it'll break up at the start of a scuffle.
5 most
So-
important things people should have learned today at this second session.
Have things in place before you bring the puppy home.
That
Don't
was in
wait
session
until
1.
after. No, well, the vet, the groomer,
The
those
vet?
things here. Vet, groomer, fence, being able to handle your dog, touch them everywhere.
Socialize them.
Socialize, 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 socialize. You want to be able to take your dog with you places, you have to socialize them. If you want them to be more than a couch potato, if you want them to be your companion, to be able to go places and do things with them, you have to get them out there.
And you also want to work with the dog from the very, very beginning so that when people come to visit, the dog is not fearful. You don't have to worry about the dog being aggressive towards people. The dog doesn't spend its whole life either outside or in a certain room in the house or whatever.
Right.
You want that dog to be part of the family.
Exactly.
In everything, all the time. And that's my opinion. Ours
Right.
certainly are like
Right.
that.
Right. Yep, that's what you want. You want get them into a training class early. Get them, and I tell my students, you need two. You need at least 2 training classes. After that, you either become one of us that wants to see what else can I do with my dog, and you keep coming back, or you've got your foundations and they're strong enough to keep going. But the other thing is, I don't care who the trainer is, if you don't do your homework, it's not going to work.
Training classes, agility, if they ever want to do that, that's an option.
That's
We've got
fun.
a fantastic agility program up in McCain.
Oh, yes.
One of the best around, has
Yep.
an awful lot of dogs that do very well with
Yeah.
that. We also have dogs that do
Barn hunt,
barn
dock
hunt,
diving.
dock diving.
yep.
We have the therapy dogs. We have the ones that, what's the one where you go to the different stations?
Rally.
Rally. I never can remember.
Wait till you see the new signs.
Yes, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of different things you can do with your dog. If there's anything we haven't discussed, anything you have any questions about, you can call Robin. You can always call the Bark Park and get some information there, and we can hopefully head you in the right direction for the person who can help you the most. Again, the name of the training facility is,
Red Ball Dog Academy.
and you are Robin Peterson, and you are the person in charge of this, and they can also go online under redballdogacademy.com
Yes, .com.
and get information. You can go to
Yes.
the Bark Park website, and we have this on our website. It's always in our newsletter. We are always talking about the importance of your dogs getting in training classes. So consider that, consider Red Ball, and if not Red Ball, find a trainer someplace in Crawford County and get your dog at a trainer as soon as possible after 8 weeks of age.
After 8 weeks of age, or
Okay.
at 8 weeks of age.
Perfect. Thanks
Yes.
very much.
Yes.
The Velcro dog is
The
attached.
Velcro dog is attached.
They can't see, but
Yes.
Cicely is
Well,
attached.
And the hair.
And the dog
Like
has
your
hair.
vacuum cleaner.
Well, yes, I gave her a little kiss a minute ago, and I had about 10 dog hairs
Uh-huh.
in my mouth.
Yes, my naked mole rat.
Yes. Thanks very much
Yes.
for doing this. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you again with our programs.